Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to what I think is our 7th GAN. A lot of you have been returning members, which is really, really cool. Thanks for joining us on the journey. I want to say a big thank you to my partner in crime, David Freeman over there. He's trying to hide away from all the cameras, but he's played a big part in organising a few GANs, especially this one. And I want to thank all of our speakers as well today. You've got Joe, Barney, Dexter and Andy. And Joe's going to be the bravest one of them all, going first on our kind of first ever talk session. So hopefully it'll be something that's valuable for you all and give us some feedback at the end. I'd like to welcome Joe Thom to the stage.
Hello, thank you for that. Yeah, my name is Joe. I am primarily a sound designer or kind of technical sound designer, but I'm going to talk a little bit about a project where I actually didn't do any sound design at all, really. It was what I was kind of responsible for is all the kind of Unreal Engine game design and level design, everything like that, mechanics, stuff like that, but possibly more importantly getting all the OSC communication set up so that we could essentially talk between Unreal Engine and Max MSP and have them running alongside each other as the game was played. So the project is called Spatial Invaders. It's still in pretty early development at the moment, but it's essentially a audio-only game. So you play it blindfolded, but it's a turret-style defense game. So you essentially sit in a turret in the middle, and you have 8 spawn points around you that enemies can spawn from at random, come towards you, and we use HRTF processing, so you can spin around in the chair and hear where they're coming from, locate them, and try to take them out before they reach you. So the turret is controlled by... Oh dear, look at that, it's overlapping. Didn't look like that in PowerPoint. So the turret is essentially controlled by sitting in a kind of modified swivel chair that's got a magnetometer attached to it, which picks up orientation. So as your orientation changes, the binaural panning of the sounds changes along with it, and you can localize where the sounds are coming from. So like I say, all the game mechanics, design, everything like that I was responsible for in UE4, and then Max MSP was responsible for taking in all the input from the sensor and passing that over to Unreal, and then taking information from Unreal, bringing it back to Max and playing back audio accordingly. So has anyone used any kind of OSC stuff before?
A little bit. Yeah. I did some like a similar thing with Unity and Max and Ableton.
Cool.
Just talking to each other, but I haven't.
You probably know more about this than I do then. So yeah, Open Sound Control is essentially a networking protocol that was initially developed for speaking between or sharing information between instruments, primarily synths, so performance information, stuff like what you get from your pots, note values, stuff like that. It is quite often used as an alternative to MIDI because it's a lot more versatile. You're not just transferring values from 0 to 127 or anything like that. You can send messages via a network, which is what we ended up doing. We shared a MacBook Pro we had that was running Max MSP, and we were passing the information over a network to a Windows laptop that was running Unreal. And possibly one of the most useful things about OSC is it can transmit multiple data types. So as opposed to just being numbers like MIDI, you're transmitting strings, floats, integers, anything you want, and then you can transfer that information to use it in any way on the other side once it's been received. And you can define specific paths, so you can set addresses to look for certain pieces of information, stuff like that. So it's pretty versatile. So I've got a very short video of some kind of alpha gameplay. Unfortunately, obviously, we won't be able to get the full extent of the kind of binaural panning. This is kind of just for illustrative purposes. But so, turn it up.
You love
Alright. So as he's spinning the chair, that's rotating the turret. The sensor information going into Max MSP. Max MSP is passing the rotation to Unreal, which is then updating in the game there. And when an enemy's been hit, Unreal passes the X and Y values back over to Max, and the explosion sound is played in the accordion place. So, Max MSP, the externals are essentially developed by the University of Berkeley. So you can just download them for free, pop them in your externals folder in Max, and OSC is kind of ready to go there. You can get them from that website. So, as I say, the player rotation, laser fire and laser reload once you run out of ammo is data that's gone straight into Max MSP from a joystick and the magnetometer on the chair, and that's passed over to UE4 via a UDP send object, which is just essentially for setting a address within Max that's your network address and forwarding the information over to UE4 to pick up on the other side. So this is the kind of binaural panning system within UE4. Each one of these boxes here is essentially one of the spawn points that an enemy can be spawned from. So that's a kind of 360 panning. So the arrows here are essentially where it's panned on the kind of 360 binaural scale. So as you turn in the chair, the magnetometer will update which direction it's panned in, so the sound's always staying in the same place and you can locate it by moving around. Full disclosure, I was not in charge of the Max MSP patch, so please don't ask any really complicated questions about that because I'm not sure. But essentially, what you're getting here is the UDP receive, which is picking up from network port 8000 the Unreal information, and then you've got the UDP send there, which is sending it back out to this network address, and that's being picked back up by UE4 on the other side. So within UE4, the OSC plugin is available from Monsieur Gustave, he goes by, and that's essentially just a drag and drop put plugin, and it is available right up to UE 4.11, so it is pretty current, it keeps it up to date. Just a case of downloading that, unzipping it and dropping it in your plugins folder, and that'll add all your new kind of nodes and everything within Unreal for you to be able to do this sort of stuff. So the enemy spawn location, whether the enemy's been killed, so if one of your projectiles overlaps with the enemy, and if the player is hit by an enemy, is also information sent to Max along with the relevant kind of X and Y values of the positions that those events have happened, and then Max plays back the audio accordingly. So the OSC data from UE4 is sent and received just with push and pop nodes. So you've just got character rotation. So you've got an event that's bound to a OSC received there. So you add a new component within your blueprint, which is just an OSC received component. This event here will essentially fire whenever an OSC message is received. And if you pop the float, it's essentially saying get the float value that's been sent into UE4, turn it into a rotator, so make it a rotator on the Z-axis. So that's essentially just setting the rotation of your player controller and the player character, which in this case is just the turret. And here you've got the spawn projectile. So whenever the trigger on the joystick's kind of activated, what it's doing first here with the shoot there, it's essentially checking that the address that OSC message has been sent to is the shoot address. If it is, just opening a gate, letting one event from this tick, which is just a constant firing event, letting one event through, spawning a projectile, and essentially just telling it which way to go. So it's getting the character's rotation, saying fire in that direction. And lastly, when the enemy's destroyed, you're essentially sending the OSC message of the X and Y value of that enemy. So you're using a push flow to send it over to Max, send it over the X and Y value and triggering an explosion. So that Max is receiving that X and Y, playing an explosion at those coordinates. So the main kind of benefits that we've found from kind of using OSC in this way is you've got the customizability of Max MSP. I think if you've used any kind of game engine, you know that, yeah, the audio engine's getting pretty good, but there's still some definite kind of limitations there in terms of what you can do. So if you've got OSC messages that you can just send back and forth and translate them in any way that you want, you've got the full extent of Max MSP to be able to do pretty much anything you want with it, really. With relative ease, you can set up a binaural system like that. So I think the guy that set that system up, he managed to get it working within kind of a week to get a full kind of pretty functional binaural system set up. We were a little bit worried that no one was going to be able to hit anything, but I think like the highest score we got was about 77, so it obviously worked, so that was a weight off. And then input methods, you've got all these various input methods. I mean, all this kind of stuff that you can take into an Arduino, which is what we use. Any kind of sensors whatsoever. So you've got like Imogen Heap with like gloves that she does all this sort of stuff with, and you know, you could control a game with that if you wanted. You can pretty much have any form of input that you want to do anything in your game. And then, innovation, there's so much stuff that you could do with that you'd have no option of doing with any other kind of way. So, build a granular synth in Max if you want and have your character playing a granular synth. Like anything you can think of that you can do in Max, you could link it up to Unreal and have the game affecting that in any way. So I'm sure people might have better ideas on crazy stuff that you could do with it than I have right now, but there's all sorts of stuff that you could do with it. That's pretty much it. Oh, come on.
Question S.
Anyone got any questions?
S.
Well, I was only expecting one question, so...
Yeah, we've got about 10 minutes for questions, if anyone has any.
Yeah, have a round of applause.
Yeah, we'll be
Oh, thanks, mate. Thanks.